The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done. Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth. But you gotta be willing to take the hits and not pointing fingers saying you ain't where you wanna be because of him or her or anybody. Cowards do that, and that ain't you. You're better than that.
Hello and welcome to Castle's Corner. This is the Adapt and Overcome podcast. I am Coach Castle, and this, of course, you all know is Matt. And today we'll be talking about nutrition. This will be part one of a two-part series. In this first part, we're going to be talking about what a calorie is, what they're made up of, how many you should be eating, and then some strategies to effectively lose weight, cut weight without really noticing. So Matt, it's always good having you, bud. And why don't you tell us about some calories? What's the differences, protein, carbs, and fats? What do you want to talk about?
Okay, the neat thing is, and we're gonna kind of jump the shark on this, but the whole food pyramid is nonsense. You want to take in most of your calories from proteins, which are your mostly come from animal or whey protein or something of that nature. It's the cleanest fuel that your body can burn. Then you've got your fats, which your best fats come from avocados and that sort of thing. It's not your ding dongs and that, that business. And then you got your carbs. You could have your apple or you can have your Snickers bar. It doesn't matter. For today, we'll just go over carbs in general. We'll go through protein in general and fats in general. And if you were to ask me, the best way, you'd want 50 to 60% coming from protein, and you would like take the other 30 and 30, and you'd actually take 40 from fats and 30 from carbs, or you can mix them around, but typically you want more fats than carbs. And because most people don't understand the glycemic index and how carbs digest to begin with, so not knowing better is a big problem, and that's what we're doing this two-part for. So I'm gonna hand it to you, and I would recommend for a man under 200 pounds taking in no more than 2,100 calories a day. If that's your sedentary, your office worker, for your gym goer, 25. For your bodybuilder, very competitive cyclist, something like that, you could go up to 32, but I'd be very careful about it until you really learn what you're doing with those calories and how much you're really burning. And with women, I'd stick within the 15 to 1,800 calorie range daily for your typical woman, unless they're a competitive bodybuilder or physique competitor or something like that. And then that's a whole different topic. But
Okay,
still,
so
even with that, don't go higher than 2,200 or 2,300 calories.
what I'm going to do is let me see if I can unpack that, because a lot was just covered. I'll see if I can unpack some of that and make it simpler, a little bit more digestible. So everybody, just to keep it real simple, forgive me if you know this already, but very simply, calories are what your body runs on. You'll be burning calories even if you're just laying in a bed and breathing, doing nothing for 24 hours. You will be still burning calories at rest. This is how they work. You got to eat them, blank, blank, blank. Calories are made up of carbs, protein, and fat. Of the three, fat is the highest. Let's just call it pound for pound or calorie for calorie, or however you want to measure it. So 1 gram of carbohydrates will be 4 calories. 1 gram of protein will be 4 calories. And 1 gram of fat will be 9 calories. Now, the average person, I just looked these numbers up, the average person, statistically male, consumes 2,800 calories a day, and the average woman consumes 1,800 calories a day. Now, I would just like to address this by first saying this is just obviously too much. And how do I know that? It's because the average person looks like complete fucking shit. And now if that offends you, get the fuck over it. It's pretty simple. The average person does not look good. They do not look lean. They do not look like they exercise. They don't look very fuckable, in my opinion. Now, 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories. Now, those calories, again, will be made up of carbs, protein, and fat. As you stated, the first and most important nutrient that you're going to want to focus on is protein. Protein are the building blocks of your body, specifically your muscles, and you can't build a house without materials, and you can't repair damage without materials. So you'll be wanting to gauge your protein at roughly 1 gram protein per pound to 1.5 protein per gram per pound if you are over the age of 50 or you are taking anabolic steroids. The reason for this is if you're over the age of 45, 50, your ability to absorb protein goes down and you have to consume more of it to get the same effect. And if you're on steroids, you're able to actually process protein more efficiently, so you can get away with eating more of it. On top of that, protein keeps you feeling full. So next to address will be the carbohydrates and the fat. Now, regardless of what anybody says, the science is very clear on this. Being on a keto diet for a prolonged period of time is not healthy. Keto is a good tool to use, but it is not a good long-term round-the-year diet to follow. It's simply not healthy, regardless of what anybody says. You will be missing a lot of vital nutrients. Now, some people can get away with it. Yeah, I understand. There are genetic freaks who can get away with anything. There's genetic freaks who can be at 5% body fat year-round and they barely exercise. They picked the right parents. You didn't. Okay, luck of the draw. It is what it is. Now, carbs and fat, you do have to have both ideally. Now, as for ratios and percentages, I would actually really say that's a personal preference or even a sport preference. So you have to have carbs and you have to have fat, but the ratio doesn't matter too much. So what I always do is set your protein amount first, determine how many calories that will be, and then set your carbs and your fat ratio around that, whatever percentage you like or whatever's comfortable for you with your diet foods that you enjoy eating. Now, 1 pound of fat, again, is 3,500 calories. There are 7 days in the week. And if you'd like to remove 3,500 calories of, say, fat, you're going to want to do it slowly. And you're going to take roughly 500 calories a day out. And that'll be 1 pound of fat at the week lost at the end. So 500 calories times 7 days equals 3,500 calories. It's very simple math. The human body is not a perfect machine, so that's not exactly how it works. But without getting too much into it, you do have to also make sure you're performing cardio for a multitude of reasons. But long story short, fat is only oxidized in the presence of oxygen, which is why cardio is so beneficial. And I suppose before I turn it back over to you to talk about some other stuff, I would also like to mention, by the way, that I see this all the time. It's a big problem with people trying to lose weight. They're eating too much, or they'll do something like they'll have a crazy leg day, like what they consider a crazy leg day, and then they'll go eat 400, 500, 600 calories. Oh, I can get away with it. I just had a big workout. I get away with it. I just did cardio. Okay. Most people, when they do an hour of cardio, full-blown cardio for an hour, they burn roughly 200 to 300 calories at most. That's it. As for afterburn,
equivalent to a Big Mac.
Yeah, and as for afterburn, any of you people are going to say something about afterburn effect of cardio, that will equal a grand total of roughly 20 calories the rest of the day. Okay, so no, your afterburn is bullshit. Stop it with that nonsense. Okay, slow, steady walking cardio is best. That'll be 200 to 300 calories a day, doing it that way. Your workouts, I don't care how hardcore you think your workout is, there's no way in hell you're burning more than 300 calories during your workout. It's almost impossible, actually, unless you're doing a 5 to 6 hour workout, in which case it's not very effective, probably. So I just want to put that out there for you guys. You consuming 2 Reese's cups is 200 calories. There goes your cardio. So food is first. And on top of that, I would also say that whatever food choices you have, you want to make them, let's say, the best you can make them. So you want to stick to protein because protein keeps you feeling full. As for your carbohydrates, you want to eat carbohydrates which are very high in volume, but very low in calories. Things like have a big spinach salad, have a bunch of broccoli. These give you tons of nutrients, micronutrients, all kinds of vitamins and minerals, but they have almost no calories. Things like celery, when you eat the celery, it's good, it's crunchy, it's good to eat it with stuff. And guess what? It's negative calorie because it's so hard to digest. You burn more calories digesting it than you get from actually eating it. This stuff is not hard to look up. You just have to Google it. And then I guess my last little recommendation here is whatever foods you choose to include for your carbs and your fat, try to space them evenly throughout the day And if that doesn't work, you find yourself getting cravings, try to gear them more towards the afternoon, because that'll kind of get rid of the cravings. I mean, I find this occurs across most people. I won't get into the actual science of it, but that's kind of a good explanation for it. Now, let's get into, as far as nutrition, how many meals do you like to eat? So, well, I should actually say, meal wise, it doesn't matter beyond comfort level and stability of hormones, but it really is kind of up to comfort how many meals you eat. But how would you recommend people be consuming their meals to lose fat? More, less meals? Would you recommend they eat 3 big meals, 6 smaller meals, 10 small meals? Start off one way? Do you give them diet breaks one day a week where they can have a cheat meal or whatever? How do you handle it with your clients?
Okay, I pretty much treat every client like if it was me because I know it works, especially with the wheelchair and the lack of being able to do extra cardio and just eat that kind of thing. So I always try and keep it small. Just look at the package, see what the portion size is, stick with that guideline, and I like to have 3 solid meals a day and 3 maintenance meals. So for breakfast, I had blueberry wheat waffles, and I only ate 2. And I have turkey bacon with that, and 6 ounces of black coffee to get the juices going, nothing hard on the digestive system, and my metabolism starts to burn. So then I have, and that's about 7 a.m. So about 10 a.m., I'll have some eggs, maybe some wheat toast, that kind of thing. Then I'll have my actual lunch a couple hours later, then a maintenance meal. Then, depending on where my maintenance meal is in conjunction with my workout, I might not take a pre workout. I might just throw in some aminos, just for the extra maintenance energy. And they keep from going catabolic. And then have the post workout meal after, and then dinner. Depending on if I work out before dinner or after dinner, I'll arrange it like that. And then right before I go to bed, I always have a little quarter cup to a half cup, depending on where I am in my calories and that sort of business during the day, of low fat, low sodium cottage cheese, some peanut butter, and another 20 ounces of water. I drink about 2 gallons of water a day without fail. Now, you can't just say, oh my God, I've got to take 2 gallons of water a day. Don't just start doing that on day one. You're just going to just feel terrible. If you're only used to drinking 2 cups of water at 8 ounces each, you're already dehydrated. You're supposed to have at least 8. That's nutrition standard. That's what we all learned back when we were kids. And so you want to get up to where you're going back up to your 64 ounces of water a day. Once you can handle that, then you go up to 96. That's 1 gallon. Then get used to that. Then go up to a gallon, work your way up to a gallon and a half.
I just want to cut in here real quick, Matt, just to address 2 things real quick about the water intake. So number one, this will depend on what size person you are, as well as your age. And the whole 8 cups of water a day thing, it's a little bit misleading. It's a little bit confusing sometimes. Even 2 gallons a day, I hear bodybuilders say you got to drink 2 gallons of water a day. You can actually overhydrate yourself to the point where you're losing minerals and vitamins, and you're going to be getting fatigued and feel like shit. You there, bud?
Yep.
Oh, there it is. You hear me?
Yes.
Did you hear me cut you off and say, let me jump in real quick?
Start right there again. And I know why you're doing it, because I'm not making the difference between general everybody.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that real quick. Yeah. It's just because some fucking, you know how people are stupid. Sorry, let me cut that off. Jump in. I just want to jump in and interrupt you real quick about the water intake. So in regards to the water intake, it will depend on how big a person you are It will depend where you live, the temperature where you live, how much you're sweating during the day. So like, for example, a 200-pound construction worker who also does a gym workout after work, he's going to need to consume a lot more water if he's doing construction in Florida than he's going to the gym and he's sweating his ass off in the gym. He's going to need to consume a lot more water than somebody who's a 150-pound office worker who only goes to the gym for 30 minutes a day and barely sweats when they go there. They won't need to consume that much water. I find just a very simple rule of thumb is not actually to pay too much attention to your water intake, but actually to pay more attention to your salt intake. So this is might sound a little bit strange because people have a very negative connotation and association with salt, but you can't actually overeat salt. It's 100% impossible. I know a lot of doctors and idiots who don't actually follow science will tell you that salt is bad for you. Salt causes hypertension and high blood pressure. There has not been a single scientific review, which has been peer reviewed, which actually shows this. It's simply not true, and there's no evidence to back it. In fact, salt actually lowers your blood pressure and lowers your risk of hypertension. So I just like to put that out there. And on top of that, what I'm talking about is monitoring your salt intake. I take salt pills every day. And the reason I do that is because I sweat so goddamn much. I live in Florida. I walk outside in Florida. I run outside in Florida. I work out in a hot ass gym. I sweat a lot. So I take salt pills. Now, if I'm taking my salt pills every day, I will notice when I'm thirsty, I need to drink. I mean, it sounds stupid, but you'll actually be thirsty when it's time to drink. I do not monitor how much water I drink. I don't measure it. I don't count, not in the slightest. If I feel like I'm thirsty, I drink. Now, the reason it works is because the salt levels in my body are adequate. They're at the right amount, meaning my body knows exactly how much water it needs to maintain its system, its homeostasis, and its osmosis in my blood cells. So it knows what's going on. If your salt is out of whack, if you're not eating enough salt, if you're trying to remove salt from your diet, so many people, you are going to have all kinds of health problems, and those health problems are not related to the salt per se, but more to the hydration. You're being dehydrated because you're not consuming salt. So being dehydrated, even being dehydrated a little bit, causes massive impairments in the brain to the point where your body's actually almost drunk at that point. It's like going a night without sleep. So I would just like to just interrupt real quick about that, just to be really clear. It's not really a measurement. It's not a set amount. It depends on the person, the environment, the temperature. And the easiest way to do it really is just to make sure you're consuming enough salt, and your body will just naturally tell you to drink when you're thirsty. And for those of you, you cannot consume too much salt. Salt your food, take salt pills. If you consume too much salt, you'll either just piss it out, or you're going to start getting sensitive on your tongue. You're not going to want to eat the salt. But we're talking, you'd have to consume pounds too much for this to happen. I mean, really, it's not possible to eat too much salt. And again, anybody who's questioning me or doesn't believe me, just do your own damn research. I'm not the only person who says this. Okay.
No, I agree with this 100%. Even during a cut on the week I was getting ready to compete, I was still taking in salt. None of this moving salt up and down and that's all hooey and for the birds.
Well, even the carb loading, the bodybuilders would do the carb loading before the shows. It's already been proven many times you don't have to carb load or anything.
That doesn't work at all.
But what it is, it's not the carbohydrates, it's the salt. They have the carbs, but it's the salt going in with the carbohydrates that reinflates and rehydrates the muscle tissue. It's not even the carbs that are doing it. Again, another misunderstood.
Sorry about the dog.
Oh, he's a cutie, no worries. But let's get back to nutrition here. So in regards to the meals, it looks like you do about 6 meals a day, 3 smaller, 3 larger. What would you say about cheat meals and stuff? How do you advise clients about that?
I'm okay with that. Okay, it all comes down to ingredients. Don't open up like Muscle and Fitness Hers for the women or Muscle and Fitness for the guys and think, I work in an office, so I'm never going to go for the nationals and the Mr. Olympia contest, so I have to do exactly what they're doing. No, they're loaded to the gills on anabolics, PEDs, and the whole thing. For your natural 150 to 200-pound guy, or choose your woman, I don't care, doing any kind of workout, and your Brig 20 is really awesome. I've done that a few times, and I thought of it in the same mentality as the Marine Corps Daily 16, modified it how I needed it. Amazing. I like it very much. Anyway, for that kind of person, you know what? Just eat sensible foods. And That way, when you go for your cheat meal, I'll explain a cheat meal for me. I'll go to a Mexican restaurant and I'll eat steak, shrimp, very light rice, and a little bit of refried beans and some of the pita bread. And that was my cheat. Now, that's during competition. Now, if you're trying to go from like, oh my gosh, I weigh 200 pounds, I want to get down to 180, be honest with yourself and say, I'm going to take 4 months to do it, 5 pounds a month. That's very manageable. That's good for your goal setting, and it's very easily attained. So just modify your healthier eating choices, because I still eat pizza, but you'd be impressed with the ingredients. I'm not just going to Domino's or Papa John's.
Well,
That kind
let me jump in here just to play the devil's advocate just for a second, because I like to be that guy. Plus, I kind of am that guy.
Sure.
So number one, I should say, full transparency, a couple things here. Number one, if you are on steroids, you can diet harder. It's very simple. You can diet. I just like to get that out of the way real quick. When you see those people and they look like lean, muscular, ripped, shredded gods, and they lose 20 pounds in 4 months, which you can do it, yes. But the only way that is possible, and they were able to maintain that muscular physique, is because they're on an awful lot of enhancing supplements, okay? That's the only reason. If you are not taking those things, you cannot do that. You just can't, because it will digest muscle at the same time as fat. Your body's going to go to hell. So I would just like to say, just real quick, slower is always better. It's better. Like the analogy I gave earlier was 3,500 pounds, 500 calories a day. That's 1 pound a week. I don't even usually do that with my clients. I usually go for more of a half a pound a week. That's more manageable for most people. Here's the thing. If you go that slow, your body doesn't rebel against you and it doesn't notice. So if you want to think of a fat cell like a circle, we all genetically have a fat cell, and that fat cell all genetically has a little level where it likes to be full. This is how much fat we like to have. It's okay if there's this much not full. When you start dieting, that will drastically shrink, sending your body into panic mode, releasing this hormone ghrelin, which, by the way, also gets released if you don't sleep enough at night. You'll be having cravings all day because your ghrelin levels are risen. But anyway, so it releases this ghrelin hormone, making you panic, freak out. You start consuming high-calorie things, breaking your diet. Is it your fault? Not really. You're at the mercy of your biology. And anybody who's ever tried to go to battle with their biology, you'll know you lose every time. You can't fight your biology, so you have to learn how to think how your biology thinks and outsmart it. So if you know that you drastically drop your calories from 3,000 calories down to 2,000 calories, you're going to be experiencing hunger cravings. If you're not sleeping, you're going to be experiencing hunger cravings. If you're sleeping enough and you drop your calories 200 calories a day through food, you do an hour of cardio, burn another 200 calories there, and you do a 30-minute workout, hey, there's another 100 calories. That's your 500 calories for the day. You only took 200 out of your food. Okay, now you're good for the week. As for cheat meals, interesting study. I was just reading this and talking to Bill Campbell about it. It's really cool. You know how most people, they'll go on a diet for whatever, 6 months or something, and then they do the stopping of the diet, and then they gain all the fucking weight back and they look like shit because they lost their discipline and consistency. They only got in shape for a wedding or whatever it may be. Very foolish to do, by the way. You should be fuckable year round. Just like to point that out. I've had the six pack for God knows 8-10 years now. It doesn't go anywhere, stays there. But anyway, so the thing is, basically, I try to keep it simple. The reason for that is when you were dieting for the 6 months and you had no reprieve, your body got used to this new level of homeostasis. Then you start overindulging, eating all these calories. Then you get used to this new level, and it's like starting all over from scratch again. It's very difficult to get back into your diet, to get back into the consistency. But if these same kind of average people started the diet, they did the diet for a week, and then they were allowed a day or two, to eat higher calories. Now, it didn't actually matter what higher calories meant in this case. They were allowed to eat pizza and ice cream and other things, although I believe some did, some didn't, I think was the result. Some chose to, some chose not to. But either way, the calories went up a good 2 or 3,000 calories for those days. And they went back in the calorie for another week or two, and they continued to do this the whole process. Not only did they maintain at the end of the diet, they just kept up with that lifestyle because it was easy for them to maintain. On top of that, they actually had better results than the group that simply stuck to the diet the whole time. And the reason for this, it actually goes back a little bit to what the bodybuilders used to do. They would do a keto diet for 5 or 6 days, and then they would have a carb surplus or a carb loading one day, usually Sunday, fun day, they called it, where they ate a whole bunch of carbs and stuff. So it basically just kind of seesaws your metabolism. So you start off being used to only eating, let's say, I don't know, what's a good number, 2,500 calories a day for 6 days. And then you have a day where you eat 4,000 calories and a whole bunch of carb and everything else. Well, it raises your metabolism dramatically for about 2 or 3 days. So you actually end up burning off the extra calories you ate, plus some extra, plus you're in a good mood because you had the break and all these. I mean, it's a lot of components, but the diet breaks are actually good. And I should also actually point out, at least once a week, I have a day where I eat a pizza or I'll have ice cream. Usually it's 2 days a week. But then again, I should also point out that I do cardio every single day for an hour to an hour and a half. I work out 6 days a week. I'm constantly running around like a lunatic the entire day. I'm talking constantly the entire day, which burns a lot of energy. I know exactly how many calories I need to consume. I'm very careful with it. And I have a lot of muscle mass on me, which allows you to burn these kind of calories. It doesn't mean when you get muscular, you get to eat whatever you want, but it does mean you get, I get pizza and ice cream and shit when I feel like eating. And that's because I, have kind of earned that right, I guess you could say. But I'd like to clarify that for people. I mean, any questions about that, Matt? I could clarify some questions about the study if you want.
No. I was just going to reinforce that the leaner you are, the faster your metabolism burns. And it's more of a clean blast furnace going.
To a point,
Because of the
though.
way that you explained your calories, this is the point I'm trying to make. Why your body will do the bounce back, because you're already at a high tempo and a high temperature. And I tag that in with my frequent meals because your body keeps burning. And that's why I do the smaller frequent meals.
Plus, it keeps you full longer too, and it keeps the cravings at bay, all that stuff.
And I just wanted to reinforce that, me through my own trial and error, I do a lot of the stuff that you're talking about myself. And everybody who's listening to this, he's 100% right. I have the Mr. Olympia trophy to prove it, on and on and on and on and on. What he's saying is 100% right.
You want to talk about meal prep real quick? That's something that I find just about every one of my clients struggles with. I think I have a little bit of a different take on it because I was a chef for 16 years. I think about things a little bit differently. But how do you handle your meal prep, and how do you have your clients handle their meal prep?
Oh, mine's easy. I mean, the first time, because I've always been an athlete. I don't care if I was wrestling, if I was doing competitive judo, where you had to be in a weight class. I don't care if I was in powerlifting, where you had to be in a weight class, whatever it was, bodybuilding, where you just had to be lean, hold on to as much muscle as you can, shred it up. But meal prep for me is easy. I have 6 different kits that I would put my food together. I would sit down start on Saturday and then finish on Sunday and make all the meals all the way up till Saturday. So I had like a day overlap so I could work on what I had together. Plus, my Saturday was always my cheating time where I'd be a little bit more relaxed. It didn't have to be as stringent. And what I would say was it's gotten so much easier. It used to be those big orange or green or whatever Tupperware pieces, and you'd have to sit there and measure all your food. Nah, they make little cafeteria looking Ziplocs now to where you can do that. You can make your meals, your main ones, so you can just pop it out, prep it. Pop it out, prep it. It's the easiest thing in the world, but it all comes back down to the 2 things that we've gone over already, discipline and consistency.
Mhm.
Discipline, consistency. Discipline, consistency. And it'll finally get to a time where it's not like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I got to do this again. To, hey, wow, it's time for me to do this now. And so, you're excited about it. It's not that big of a deal. It's just
Uh,
became what you become as a person.
I would say too, just in regards to the discipline and the consistency of food. I mean, you all know this, but you're not going to want to hear it. The less variety, the easier and the better. Seriously, the less variety, the easier and the better. I generally speaking, I'll give you two perspectives on this because I know a lot of
No,
people
again,
like
you're
variety.
right.
I
I
mean,
mean, especially me as a diabetic,
mhm.
I don't get to have all the rice and yams and this and that I want. I'd love them, but I got to be more careful.
Mhm. So let me just get into two styles of I guess you could say diet preparation or meal prep, however you want to call it. So let's get into two styles here. So style number one, this is the style that I follow because I think it's simple and I kind of like to have a little bit of variety, but I know it's not for everybody. And when I say a little bit of variety, I do mean a little bit of variety. I'll go to Costco, I'll go to GFS, I'll go to a store where you bulk buy. I'll get 20, 30 pounds of ground beef. I'll get a bunch of steaks. I'll get a bunch of chicken breasts. It doesn't sound terribly interesting, but this is kind of how you do things as a chef. I will then take all of the ground beef. I'll get a big pot. I'll fill it up with boiling water. I throw all the ground beef in there. I mix it up with a whisk. That way it's just little tiny pieces of ground beef. All the fat from that ground beef then rises to the surface. I skim it off. I don't want that fat. It's extra calories. Then I strain the ground beef. Now I have roughly, give or take 18 to 26 different pounds of just ground beef, which has been cooked and has the fat removed. Then I will just take that, freeze it in individual portion bags of Ziploc baggies, or if I'm feeling lazy, I'll put it in one big Tupperware in the refrigerator because I plan on eating it that week. Then I'll do the same thing with the chicken breast. I'll season them 6 different ways, 3 different sheet trays, throw them in the oven for 20 minutes. You get the idea for my proteins. I'll put them in Tupperwares or Ziploc baggies, freezer or fridge. Then I'll do the same thing with pasta. I'll cook a bunch of vegetable pasta. For those of you who don't know, there's a lot of really cool low-calorie pasta on the market nowadays. Just Amazon or Google it. Tons of stuff. Pasta, 2-3 cups worth for 10 calories. It's basically water. You get a bunch of packets of that, put it in your cupboard. Bunch of things of frozen vegetables. Those are just vegetables. They're perfectly healthy. They have everything as a fresh vegetable does, I promise you, and they're a lot cheaper. Get a whole packet, bunch of packets of frozen vegetables. When it's come time to eat, here's what I do. I get a bowl. I go to my fridge, I get some ground beef, I throw it in there. I throw either, I don't know, marinara in there for pasta. Maybe I make a quesadilla with it. Maybe I make, you get the idea. You can make anything you want with it. You get the idea. And you do this with eggs. And you keep all this stuff in your fridge. And anytime it's time for a meal, you grab a bowl, you throw some shit in there, and you throw it in the microwave. Every time the meal can taste differently. Every time it can look different if you want. And if you don't want to do that, you do the same thing I just said, but then you make yourself 6 Tupperwares and you label them 1 through 6, and you pre-assemble your meals and you do the same thing. You put some in the fridge, you put some in the freezer. Again, this is my recommendation for meal prep. Also, anything that's in your house that you shouldn't be eating, get it out of your house. I mean, it's not that hard.
Don't give
And
it
if
to the
you,
food bank.
and if you have family members who just insist they have to have their chocolate and candies and bullshit in the house, it's real simple. You tell them, I'm very serious about changing my life and I'm serious about doing this. I want your help. Here's the only thing I need from you. Get it out of my sight. Put it in one of your drawers. Put it in your closet. Put it somewhere I'm not going to see it. Eat it when you like, but keep it out of my sight. So I can't go eat it in the middle of the night when I'm having cravings. Okay. So let's get on to tips. I think it's time for tips. So why don't you give me some of your favorite meal prep nutrition tips, and then I'll give some.
Okay, my favorite thing to do is to line up everything I'm going to eat. And because it's so consistent on its ingredients, it's like I did officer mess duty for a couple weeks because I was injured and couldn't do my regular Marine Corps job. So I sat down and watched how these chefs made the food essentially for a week, and I learned from them. They're like, okay, this is the portion size, you know how this is. So I separate everything out the night before, for the first 4 days. And then I prep that on day one, which would be Saturday. And then I finish it up the next day. And then it's just like you said. I mean, if you lived in my house and vice versa, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I'm already doing this. And you shut the door.
Pretty
You
standard
know?
bodybuilding shit, yeah.
Yeah. And, I don't care if it's bodybuilding. I don't care if it's track. I don't care if it's wrestling. I don't care. You know, you're an athlete, act like one, perform like one, or you'll never be a champion. I don't care if you're last in junior varsity. You're going to get that varsity letter, eventually, if you keep consistent and on track of what you're doing. Because all champions act the same way.
They're
And
usually more
everybody
intelligent.
starts out as a white belt. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Same thing.
Yeah. And I mean, people like that, they usually, the reason they get to the top is they honestly do more research. They spend more hours practicing. They develop the neurological connection. They develop the muscles. They just do more. They just obsess. That's all it is. As for my tips, I guess I'm going to approach this for anybody listening who is, let's just say, the average person, not the bodybuilder, or perhaps somebody who's just really trying to get more consistent with their diet. I'll give you some tips I find help a lot. So number one, I know how most people eat. Yeah, I know it's not the best. And I know it seems very extreme removing everything from your house and doing the meal prep the way we just talked about. It seems very extreme to a lot of people, seems like pretty crazy. So here's what I'm going to recommend. Make a list of your favorite foods. That's all. Just take the time, sit down for 5 to 10 minutes, make a list of all of the foods that you love more than anything. I don't care what goes on this list. And then I want you to go through the list and I want you to cross off everything that you know you shouldn't be eating. That doesn't mean you're not going to eat it. That's not what it means. It just means cross off all the stuff you know you're not supposed to be eating. Now, what's left on that list should hopefully be things like burgers and pizza and whatever the hell floats your boat. I don't know. So then your next job is very simple. Find some slightly healthier alternatives to those versions. So if you love KFC and you get KFC once a week and you always want to do that, next time you get KFC, get the grilled chicken. Okay. Don't eat 5 biscuits, eat 2 biscuits. Making progress. You follow me? If you're one of those people who does not like to eat breakfast, don't force yourself to eat breakfast. Many times I skip breakfast. I don't eat for the first 3 or 4 hours of the day. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that because I know I will be consuming the rest of my calories the rest of the day. A lot of people simply are not hungry first thing in the morning. It's not going to give you a gigantic benefit eating first thing in the morning. A lot of times people don't eat first thing in the morning like me because it gives you 3 or 4 hours of clear, undiluted focus. I find that food kind of screws up my focus a little bit. When I'm hungry, I perform better. So I won't eat sometimes for that purpose. Get rid of the stuff in your house as you can, as you're able to, and stop associating with people who are constantly trying to push it on you. Live a little, have some. I made this for you. People think I'm an asshole. They'll make me a cake. I'll throw in the fucking garbage. Listen, I don't care. You should know not to bring me a cake right now. And again, anybody who's my friend would never bring me a goddamn cake. You know what I'm saying? Like they would know better. But just start deciding, why do I want to lose this fat? Is it to be sexy? Is it to be this, that, or the other? Is it to be healthy? Is it for your whatever? Whatever the reason is, just keep remembering it. And every day, do the best that you can that day. Treat each day individually. Don't link them up. Oh, I had a bad day yesterday. I better be perfect today or better eat less today. No, do the same normal thing. You had a horrible day where you binged. Next day, back on schedule. Don't try to eat less or anything else like that. But anyways, that's it for us today, guys. We gotta end it now. Matt, just remember, guys, we have all of our links and stuff in the description. Check it out. Cool stuff down there. Also, remember to like, share, support the video, comments. If you want questions answered, leave them on here. Don't forget to check me out on Sunday Live. And Matt, what do you got? A couple seconds here.
That's about it. I mean, always be disciplined, always be consistent, and decide what it is that you want and make it happen for yourself.
Nobody's going to do it but you.